Hi, today we are going to record and discuss Chapter 7 Sport Product Concepts. So in this chapter, we have the idea of the sport product and how we view it in terms of presenting it to our potential consumer, as well as our participants or our sponsors or our spectators. So a product is a good, service, or a combination of the two that's designed to provide benefits. A sport product then extends it to the sport spectator, participant, or sponsor. In other words, we're going to look at the sport product. Is sport a good? Kinda, sorta, sometimes. Is it a service? Kinda, sorta, sometimes. Or is it a combination of the two? It really is that combination of the two that we use to create this idea that we are delivering something to satisfy the consumer's wants and needs. So what we do is we actually sell the benefits. Since a lot of the action isn't tangible, a lot of the product that we have isn't tangible, we need to sell the benefits of it or the outcomes of watching a sport or participating in a sport. Those internal and external benefits that we receive from watching sport, the reasons why we consume sport, is what we need to sell to those potential consumers. So we look at this idea of goods and services as product. A pure good and a pure service are very distinct. You could put them on one line and they'd be at opposite ends. A sport is a little bit different. And we're taking sporting goods specifically out of this because they tend to be specifically a good because they are tangible. We're looking at more of the marketing of sport or marketing via sport where we don't have that tangible item. So we look at this idea of the elements of the sport product. Tangibility is the idea that you can see something, feel something, touch something, whereas intangible is a lot of the aspects or the benefits that we get from sport: excitement, being in shape, the drama, the social aspects. So we look at how can we make this experience more tangible. Well, we look at the food, the stadium, the physical environment, the process, the seats, all of that aspects where people can touch and hold, maybe more of a product extension or sportscape point of view of it. But those certainly are things that are tangible and certainly things we can work on and we can then control. That standardization and consistency is very difficult in terms of the outcome of a sport. We don't know who's going to win or lose during a game. We don't know how we're going to play volleyball or bowling when we go out. However, we try to standardize and make consistent everything that we can in terms of greeting people, in terms of cleanliness, in terms of enjoying themselves, in terms of parking, in terms of our interactions. Those things we try to make consistent. As opposed to traditional products, sport is very different in the fact that it's created and consumed at the same time. It's perishable. We don't have the ability to create the product and store it and have it for later. And this again is taking the idea of recording or taping a show or a sporting event and watching it later, or merchandise or something along those lines. That the sport itself, the activity itself, is perishable. Finally, when we look at sport products, we can't really separate the quality of the good and the quality of the service. We can't do that in many aspects of other types of industry. For example, if you go out to eat and you have either very good or very poor service, that's going to really make your decision whether you enjoyed the experience of having the food, good or bad. You may have good service yet bad food, or bad service and good food. Either way, at the end of it, you're going to walk away thinking that you don't want to go to that restaurant. Same thing here in sport, that the quality of the good, the excitement of the sport, and the quality of the service and how we deliver different aspects to people really are bundled together, and people really can't separate those two when evaluating the experience itself. So we look at these different types of products and we try to flesh out how do we improve this product and how do we develop it as we're moving forward. How do we grow our sport in terms of creating new revenue streams? We can look at a product line, and product lines are groups of products that are closely aligned because they satisfy a particular class of needs used together to the same consumer group. For example, Wilson, when they first came out with the baseball glove, they made the ball, the bat, the uniforms, the protective gear. So when you go get baseball equipment, you can get a complete product line from Wilson. I think when Nike started running shoes and then grew into, shorts and singlet and warm-ups and rain gear. So you're looking at a product line centered around running so that your runner can go to one brand and get every type of product associated with that activity. A product mix then is more of an organizational perspective. It's that total assortment of product lines. So for example, with Nike, you have the running division, you have basketball, you have volleyball, you have field hockey, you have all these different product lines make up this entire product mix. In terms of sport, perhaps we're looking at marketing via sport. We're looking at many different areas that people are moving into to increase revenue. Part of it, we're seeing fantasy camps, licensed merchandise, memorabilia, cruises, restaurants, all sorts of different licensed activities that we are becoming a part of. And we're creating this idea of not only product lines, but also a product mix. If you have a sport fan, you're looking to fulfill those wants and needs with one type of organization. Leads us into our branding discussion. What is branding? Branding is a name, logo, design, symbol, or any combination that an organization or now many individual athletes use to differentiate its products from its competition. Think of Disney. When you see Disney's name on it with a movie coming out, it says certain things without even knowing what the movie is really about. It's going to say it's family friendly. It's going to be a high quality. It's going to be, Disney-fied. It's not going to be too scary and not too mushy, and it's going to have some songs in it. You go to a Disney property, you expect to have top-level service delivered to you. Everything that you need will be taken care of. So you think of these different types of brand, and what are brands saying about the organization? So the brand is simply the organization seen through the eyes of the stakeholder. Perhaps you as a consumer, perhaps you as an employer or an employee or an investor. A brand is used to make certain the product is in that evoked set of alternatives. We looked at in chapter 4, trying to understand participants as consumers, and we looked at the decision-making process. And part of that was the evaluation of alternatives. And to get into that evoked set of alternatives, you need name recognition for the most part if we're not doing an external source. That's the basis of why people advertise and spend so much money on advertising. So if you're looking for a brand new car, you may never have had a Honda before, but because of the advertising you've seen with the name of Honda, you know the brand, you know what they want to say about it, high quality, inexpensive, good gas mileage. So it's in that evoked set of alternatives. That's what that brand is. That brand can be used as a symbol of prestige, status, lifestyle, personality. It positions your product or organization in comparison to your competition within the psychological ideals of your target market. So when you develop this brand, you want your name to be positive, distinctive, generate positive feelings and associations. You want people to remember and pronounce your name. So if you're creating a new brand for a professional team, you may want it something indicative to your area so that it creates some sort of communal pride with the people that live there, or it's going to be your fan base. Some names imply the benefits of the sport product. For instance, who is Nike? Why did they choose the word Nike? If we remember our Greek mythology, Nike is the goddess of victory. So we're looking at the fact that a sport organization, certainly a running company at the very beginning, named themselves after the Greek goddess of victory. Brands should be consistent through the entire product mix. So you look at all these different Disney type products, whether it's the movies or Disney Store or the theme parks or their cruise line, everything that they do, they have a consistent look and feel to them, a consistent standard. In the early 80s, the Disney brand was looking to stretch out, and the movie division wanted to make more money. And at that point, PG-13 and R-rated movies were drawing a lot of money. Can Disney, or should Disney, create an R-rated movie? No, because by doing that, it affects the brand image of everything else that they stand for, family friendly and that sort of thing. So they went out and created a new brand name called Touchstone for those more adult themed areas. We can think of this in terms of General Motors. You have different brands under one organization. You know, the difference between a Cadillac and an Oldsmobile or Buick and a Cadillac and Chevrolet, all those different brands, although they are all automobiles, they all touch on different consumers within that area. We think of a brand in comparison to a commodity. When I'm talking about a brand, I want you as a consumer to think mine is different. You need to purchase mine because it is different. You need to follow the NFL because it's different football than the AFL, from college football, from all our other organizations. You need to follow the New York Mets because we're different than the New York Yankees or the Staten Island Yankees or all of our other competitors, whether they're direct or indirect. Branding says my product is different. A commodity says we're all the same. A commodity says it doesn't matter what football you root for, it's all the same. So you should root for a Division III SUNY Cortland football because we're cheaper. Football is football. We still have 11 people on the field on our team, 11 people on their team. We're going to run the ball. We're going to throw the ball. It's the same. Brand says, no, I want you to spend $30 more for a ticket, drive 25 miles north, and go to a Syracuse game because there is a difference. Our talent level is different. The teams we're playing are different. It's a different sport. Brand versus commodity. Branding is this idea that we are different, and many aspects of it, we now want to charge you a premium for it. The branding process. How do we create this brand awareness? How do we get people to recognize our brand and then remember that name? First is the brand awareness. We need to expose people to our name, to our logo, our symbol. Then we develop a brand image, the set of beliefs that we want people to remember about these image drivers. Do I want you to remember price, quality, service, safety, advertising, distribution channels? You know, think about different, maybe even a non-sport product. You know, think about when you, what do you think of when you hear Volvo versus Mercedes-Benz versus BMW versus Chevrolet or Cadillac or Dodge or Mercury? All of those brands have specific images with them. What do you think of when you think Bundesliga or the Barclays Premier League or the MSL or Major League Baseball or AAA or Rookie League or New York Penn? All of those brands have different identities to them, different images. We look to take that brand image and develop an equity, a value to it. And this value is what we can now create a price premium. We can charge more because of our brand equity. Maybe our brand equity is created, this value to our brand is created because our team related factors. Our specific team has had success in the past, or we have star athletes, or we have a prestigious head coach, or maybe they're through the organization. We've seen a lot of colleges move to different conferences because of that affiliation, that this increases their brand because of the new conference we have has a better brand image themselves and more equity. Our rivals, our schedule creates brand equity. Our market, our geographic area, New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, those cities are going to inherently have more brand equity for their franchises because the city is a lot bigger and the media exposure is a lot bigger and the number of corporations are a lot more to sponsor. What we want to go is to get into brand loyalty. And we see this a lot in sport because we develop a favorite team pretty quickly and we tend to be very consistent. However, we have to look generationally, and now we're seeing that the newer generations, perhaps you as a student, your generation, your brand loyalty to a team is much less than generations before you. Perhaps it's the activity of having media showing multiple games, in every type of sport. That you watch an NFL, you're not just watching a game during the weekend. You have 3 or 4 games on Sunday and another game on Monday and games on Thursday. So you're exposed to a whole lot more than previous generations. Certainly, the impact of fantasy or rotisserie leagues have led to this idea that you're rooting for individual players as opposed to a team, which lessens your loyalty to that team. Your favorite team may be the Miami Dolphins. Your team may lose, but that's okay because I have Tom Brady on my fantasy team and I won on my fantasy team. So now you're placing as high, if not a higher value on your fantasy team as opposed to your real life team, which means that in terms of brand loyalty, you are less loyal to your team than previous generations were. So we look at this idea of the antecedents, those team related, organizational related, and market related factors, and they leave into this brand equity of awareness, association, loyalty. And the consequences, the more brand equity you have, the more media exposure, the more merchandise sales, certainly in down times when your team isn't winning. A higher brand loyalty is going to lead into that and keep your attendance up and keep your sales up. More corporate support, more atmosphere, more ticket sales. All that leads into a more and higher marketplace perception, which leads into more success, more recognition for the head coach, for the team, more conferences. All those things kind of spin on each other and really generate into different aspects. So a brand can be used as a sign of ownership. What we really use brand, here's some different ideas of it, but what we really use brand as this risk reducer. That a brand image and that recognize that evoke set reduces risk for making a bad decision. For instance, when you're driving home for Christmas break and you have to stop off and get a bite to eat, and you see a McDonald's and you see a Dod's hamburgers, most people would go into McDonald's because you've been exposed to it before. You recognize it. There is no risk going to McDonald's as opposed to Dod's. At the Dod's restaurant, you may have a much better hamburger. You may have a much worse hamburger. You have a risk there. And the brand, by cutting through this unknown aspect, really reduces that idea of a risk. It also can serve as a strategic device. Your brand, your image really lends itself to making certain decisions. Again, to Disney, coming out with an R-rated movie is a non-starter because of the brand image that has been developed over the years. Why are brands powerful? Well, they lend themselves to a lot of revenue generation. Sport consumers identify themselves personally with sport, so we want additional opportunities to show our brand loyalty. We have a personal attachment. So sport brands create this idea that we can now identify ourselves with, I'm a golfer. I follow the Philadelphia Flyers. I like the Sporting KC soccer organization. Brands cut through different elements of life, whether it's the demographics of geography, demographics, socioculturally. You can sit next to somebody that you normally wouldn't interact with and talk about sport, maybe a billionaire, maybe a person from another type of background. Sport brands are universal. They create high interest. They also allow people to market via sport. We also have an organization that allows us to reach a consumer through a different method. Sport brands allow us to create incremental revenue, meaning we can create new revenue streams that otherwise would not have occurred. For example, when the New York Jets had their summer training camp in Cortland, we would create additional revenue beyond normal citizens and tourists. Whether it's a brand new merchandise celebrating that fact, a new jersey, maybe an incremental revenue. So we look at this idea of having a sport brand. Can we create a brand new revenue stream that otherwise would not have existed? This typically is done through licensing. Licensing is a contractual agreement whereas a company may use another trademark in exchange for a royalty or fee. It is granting intellectual property. It's me making apparel, me creating shirts. I want to sell more shirts. So I go and buy the license of a college. So I can put a college name on there, University of South Carolina. On my shirt, I am now going to sell more shirts. It's beneficial for me as the manufacturer because I'm going to sell more shirts. It's beneficial for the University of South Carolina because they have now found a source of incremental revenue. They are getting licensing royalties from those sales. We've seen income from merchandise, especially in a sport context, increase tremendously over the past 20 years. We can set up this royalty payment to the licensor. We can do this in terms of a percentage of the sales, upfront money, some other things. So what do we license? We do a lot of wearables, a lot of t-shirts, hats, snuggies, coats. We see hard goods like pens, mugs, umbrellas. In fact, if you click onto this link that I have here in the types, there's actually a casket that is shown there. So we can get buried in a casket that is featured in this example is University of Georgia that plays the Georgia Fight song. So we can show our fan loyalty even during death. Trademark licensing is a multiple billion-dollar industry in US and Canada. Disney, Warner Brothers, DreamWorks, all those tend to be very high because a lot of the movies and stuff that they are able to license out. Sport, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, all of those are huge for trademarks. Coca-Cola and McDonald's are much more of a B2B aspect of it. You know, McDonald's doing their trademarks of all the individual franchisees using the word Big Mac and Egg McMuffin and that sort of thing. The functions of the trademarks, you can identify ownership, you can have physical source, you can now show a quality level. Your trademark is your brand. You are able to identify one product over another based on their trademark. So we can use that. We can now differentiate between the New York Yankees, the New York Mets, and the Staten Island Yankees based on their trademark. Trademark licensing agreement, if you're looking to develop one, maybe you combine this with your sport law class and different types of clauses that need to be there. How will the merchandise be marketed? What is the royalty? How and when will it be paid? Who has quality control? Who has ownership of artwork? Liability, indemnification, performance criteria. All of those different areas need to be a part of the licensing agreement. If it's not a part of the contract, then it doesn't exist. If the trademark is used by the licensee in any manner other than intended by the licensor when entering into the agreement, contractual arrangements must be in place to entitle the licensor to take action, meaning the licensor and the licensee need to specifically agree on the contractual obligations of the trademark licensing agreement. If it's not written down, then it may not be guaranteed. So how do we build this licensing program? We want to look at our organizational objectives. Are we looking for brand awareness or are we looking to create revenue? And that may be a difficult question. Maybe we are an NFL team, in which case we want to create revenue. Maybe we're looking to expand into India, and maybe creating revenue is not our number one aspect. Maybe now it's awareness. So we're going to sell or even distribute stuff with our logo and our name and our trademark on it at a different level. Maybe we are a small local roller disco group or roller group. So roller derby, excuse me. So now we want to create awareness for our organization, not necessarily create revenue. We want more of an awareness. So when we develop this program, our choice of licensee, do we go with a reputable partner, somebody who's done this in the past? If we do that, there's a lot less risk. However, they're going to take a larger piece of that royalty. They have distribution, they have quality. Or do we take a brand new company that's more aggressive and we can actually create more revenue for ourselves? What type of commitment do we have from our organizations? Is it just something that we say we want to do, or do we have resources, time and money applied to it? What type of relationship do we have with distributors? What's our contractual agreement? What type of legal protection do we have? How are we setting this up? But once we see this brand, once we create this brand, we can use it to create value. This value is something that we can sell. For example, the trademark of the Olympics is now a vital component to the sponsorship agreement that another brand would want. We can use our trademark, our sport brand, during in-store promotions, either on the package itself or through some sort of advertising, maybe a point of purchase display or an in-store appearance from one of our people, that now all of a sudden in a grocery store of different products in our category, consumer eyes will see our sport organization. Hey, they are the official soda of the Buffalo Bills. Now my eyes are there, and now I may be more likely to purchase that product. I can use that sport brand to sell via sport to sell in new products. It gives an established brand at least some sort of recognition. I may not know your product, I may not know your brand. However, you have an association with a team that I like. Now I feel more comfortable with it. I have that evoked set transference, at least from the sport brand. I can sell in a brand new market using a sport brand. I can boost sales. I can reinforce an image. I can use that sport brand, the Olympics, a team, an endorser, whatever that brand is and what their image and their equity is. I can use that for my organization for marketing via sport to connect to a consumer. Major aims of a lot of sport organization is use it to raise money. An extra bonus is the widespread attention given to the brand via the promotional efforts, meaning if I have an agreement even with the Buffalo Bills with Pepsi to be the official Pepsi sponsor, and you're going to put my Buffalo Bills logo on your cans, not only am I receiving revenue if I'm the Buffalo Bills from Pepsi for this arrangement, every time my brand image, my logo, my name is on a can, I have additional branding. I have additional publicity being generated, perhaps not in my target audience. Maybe a part of the Pepsi aspect is their Aquafina, which may go to non-fans of football. So now I'm getting my brand out there to a non-target audience. If my sport brand is not established yet, if I am a roller derby team, if I'm local, if I'm small, licensing can be used of informing consumers about me. I can use this as a walking billboard. The more people that I can have wearing my t-shirt at different places now creates more brand awareness. Once people are aware of my brand, then they can develop a brand image to me, and then the equity, and then the loyalty. So I want to create branding in order to drive that traffic to go up to image, equity, and loyalty. All of these brands take steps, and all of my organizational objectives need to be established. So the first I can think about, what do I want to accomplish? Once I have that, now I can go out and use this licensing or branding opportunities to develop tactics to get to that objective.